lovely people, my name's Nicole and today I want to talk to you guys about comic books. So I was raised in a very nerd culture centric family. Both of my parents are very much into nerd culture. Like we go to Comic-Con as a family every year. I grew up on Lord of the Rings movies and Star Wars and that whole world. The second Marvel started putting out their own movies, we were going to them. But the one thing that I never actually got into was comic books. Granted, this is not for lack of desire. The reason I never got into comic books was because I've always found them extremely intimidating. Like I said, growing up, I was super into all the whole nerd culture thing. My best friend was obsessed with Batman, I was obsessed with Spider-Man, but all we had to go on were the movies because neither of us had ever had a chance to read the comics. Whenever I brought it up to my parents that I wanted to read the comics, my dad always almost immediately responded, "Please do not get into comics." I understand why he was taking that stance, because comics are a lot of time and money to maintain being up to date on comics because there's just so many of them and there are so many different like branches you can go down, different superheroes, different storylines, different multiverses. It's all really complex and all of this goes back for so many years. I've always found them really confusing because there's just so much. And it's intimidating to want to start reading about a particular hero or anti-hero or villain or whoever when there is 60 years worth of comic book history that goes into that character, and I don't have the time or the money to read 60 years worth of comics about Superman. That's a lot of investment into something that I don't even know if I'm actually gonna like yet. I've always been someone who I very much need to start from the beginning. I can't just jump in the middle and be fine with that. So I've never known where is a good place for me to get into comic books, into a specific story, without having to go all the way back to the beginning. Because let's be real, half the stuff that happened in the 40s or the 60s has been retconned at this point. So what's still there? What's still real? So many of the really popular heroes have so many conflicting storylines that I find it so hard to keep track of who's who, what's in what multiverse, what the hell is going on. I've just recently started actually reading comics. It started as kind of a accidental, all of a sudden, oops, I'm reading comics kind of thing, because people on BookTube, once I started BookTube, people were talking about various graphic novels, and then graphic novels started mixing in with comics, and then I picked up like Saga, something that started fairly recently, and so there isn't 60 years worth of backstory on Saga to go through. And then someone recommended Miss Marvel in The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, and I started reading those and absolutely loved them. But I still am very aware that I don't know all their history, and I want to, but I don't know how. I don't know how to get into that. I don't know exactly what comics I need to read in order to be able to understand the ones that are coming out now. And that is incredibly stressful and really confusing, especially with the fact that so many of these heroes have crossovers into other people's comics now that it is almost impossible to actually keep track of one person's real full timeline. And then along with all that craziness and confusion, I've also just been really intimidated by the general comic community. And I don't know how much of this is just my own anxiety playing into it and how much of it is the community and the reputation it's gained, but I've always been really worried about, you know, going into a comic book store or a convention or something and just feeling like I'm out of place and having people stare at me and know that like I don't belong there. I don't know 50 years worth of history on Green Lantern. And I feel like for me it's especially stressful because I am someone who not only am I really introverted, but I also have some pretty not fun social anxiety, and I am very much the kind of person who, when I really get into something, I want to know all about it. I will read through pages and pages of IMDb trivia whenever I'm watching a movie. I look through Wikipedia pages and whichever like individual wiki a fandom may have or something. I want to know everything. I want to know all the bonus facts, all the trivia, every little piece of tidbit of information that's been released on Twitter. And so I hate going to places and being like, oh, you all know more about this than me and you're judging me because I don't know all of this. And I feel like the community as a whole has gained this reputation for being kind of exclusionary, especially when it comes to girls. I mean, there's this whole thing about fake nerd girls, where a girl who is into comic books or video games or whatever is really must only be doing it to talk to guys, and she doesn't really like all that stuff, and then they have to go like prove themselves, prove that yes, they are really a fan of this thing. I mean, I could make an entire video just about how awful that is. But just the entire idea of it is just stressful and gross, and I don't like it. I don't want to be a part of that toxic community. I don't know. I have been making a lot of effort to try and explore what I can about comics. Like I said, I've started reading a couple of various things. Most of the stuff that I'm reading has been Image comics, so it's not the like 50 years worth of history DC and Marvel superheroes. Although I have started reading Unbeatable Squirrel Girl and Miss Marvel, both of which I'm really, really enjoying. I also started reading Deadpool. I got one of the Deadpool Classics things for Christmas this year. So that has most of the sort of older history of Deadpool. And I'm really liking it. I'm finding it really, really interesting, but it just feels so overwhelming sometimes how much content there is. So yeah, thoughts, advice, anything in relation to this, please put it in the comments, help me out, let me know what you think. I love you, and I will see you later. Bye!